Greetings. What's up? It's Esper. Alright, as I had mentioned, it is time for you all to help me design a new monster. I make monsters all the time, and it is definitely a pastime of mine. I love it. I have always loved it. So now I would like to invite you all to help me design a monster, build a creature, create a devilish beastie of some sort. So, there are going to be several different categories during this video upon which you can vote. I encourage you to place a vote in the comments for each category. I know this will make you have to leave some long comments, but you know what? I think it's fun, and I hope you do too. So just follow along with me, kiddies. First of all, we're going to vote on the monsters level. I've broken the monsters level up into these nice, even 5-level chunks. So basically you decide upon which one of these level ranges you like, going all the way from low heroic to high epic. By the way, you might want to pause the video at certain points because I don't feel like just sitting here with dead silence. Next is the monster's primary role. In other words, what does it do in combat? Artillery monsters make ranged attack. They usually stand back and are not very good in melee. They would be like your archer or your blasting mage. Brutes are melee creatures that have a lot of hit points. They're generally pretty easy to hit. They themselves aren't incredibly accurate with their attacks either, but they are very tough, lots of hit points, and when they hit rather hard. Next are controllers. Controllers can be ranged or melee. They generally do things like impose debilitating conditions upon the player characters. They mess up the player characters' tactics and generally force them into situations that they don't like. They make the fight trickier, tougher. They hinder the PCs. Lurkers are your sneaky, stealthy, cunning types. They themselves are not the most physically strong, nor do they have the most hit points, but they are very sneaky. They have ways of hiding, and when they hit, they can do lots of damage. Skirmishers. Skirmishers are very mobile. That is actually the main theme of skirmishers. They move around a lot. They're very mobile, quick. They can get around, and they can usually attack pretty good. They kind of medium on the defense and hit points department. And lastly, soldiers. Soldiers have high armor class. They are very accurate with their attacks. They mark. They stop enemies. They are basically the defenders of the monster world. And the next is the monster secondary role. This is pretty straightforward. This is either a standard regular monster. It's an elite, which is basically about as strong as 2 monsters put together, kind of a boss monster. Solos are about the strength of 5 monsters put together. They are like your big bosses. They have lots of hit points and they do all sorts of crazy attacks. And lastly, we have the minions. Oh, the wonderful minions. They are the mobs that come out in swarms and hordes, and they just go down in one hit. But there's lots of them. Next is the monster origin. Aberrant monsters are your mutants and your horrors, things that are twisted by the far realm. Elemental creatures can be anything from a demon to literally an elemental, like a fire elemental. They are creatures spawned from the elemental chaos. Fae are creatures that are that come from the Feywild. Things like fairies and elves and gnomes and satyrs and centaurs. They are generally magical in sorts. Immortals are things from the astral sea. This would include devils and angels and other astral beings. Natural creatures that come from the world. That's a pretty big variety there. And shadow, creatures which hail from the Shadowfell. Next is the monster type. Animates are monsters that are composed of other non-living parts. Things like zombies or constructs are animates. Next are your beasts. These are things that are about the intelligence level of an animal and could be anything from like an ooze to a giant scorpion to a bear. Humanoid, pretty self-explanatory. Intelligent, has a personality, head, torso, 2 arms, 2 legs. Magical beast, these are things that have bestial or strange mythical monster bodies, but they have magical powers and they're generally intelligent. Monster subtype. This one is optional, and you can pick more than one subtype if you so choose. I'm just going to list a whole bunch of common ones here. These would be things like undead, plant, if it's a fire subtype, if it's a dragon or a giant or a water or an ooze or a swarm. You can even come up with your own if you can think of a cool subtype. Next is the monster's attack style. You can pick one or two of these if you would like. Does the monster attack generally with magic, with natural attacks such as horns and claws and teeth and tail, or does it use weapons like wielding a sword or a bow or throwing rocks? Next is the monster's power source. This is another optional one. You don't have to pick one of these, but does the monster use arcane, divine, martial, primal, psionic, or shadow power source? Optional once again. Next would be the monster's intelligence. How intelligent, how smart is this monster? I'm just going to give you some general categories here to compare it to. Is it as smart as a zombie, a wolf, an ogre, an orc, a human, a treant, a pit fiend, a beholder, or an ancient lich? Obviously quite a scale there. Next would be the monster's alignment. Is this an unaligned monster? Basically doesn't really care or get involved with morality much either way, or maybe just operates on instincts. Evil, this would be like your basic, it will take advantage of people if it can, willing to kill, steal, cheat, things like that. Or chaotic evil, just basically destructive, chaotic, restless, always looking for a fight, just your general pillage and murder and destroy. And lastly, another optional one, if you want to write down, or I guess type out, a monster theme, anything you can come up with, just a trait or a detail or something about this monster, like this monster looks like a walrus, or this monster commands hordes of minions, or this monster uses an illusion to appear as a person when really it's anything but, I don't know. Use your imagination, be creative. Again, that's an optional one. So I think that's about all. I think this should pretty well do it, and I'll let you all take votes over, I don't know, I'm sure I'll give this a good several days, if not longer. And when it's all said and done, I will be putting this monster together, tallying up the votes, creating the vicious beast, and I will post it as an article on my Examiner page so you can see it in all its glory. And I can guarantee you it will appear at some point in time during either one of my campaigns or maybe even one of my adventure videos here on YouTube. So as always, thanks for watching and participating and spreading the word. Happy gaming.